Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling a real giant, the history and business of Coca-Cola.
A classic for a reason.
You got that right. We've got articles, analyses, even some Quora threads asking the really important questions like, how does a sugar and water concoction become a global empire?
Those are the questions we're here to answer. It's a fascinating story, really.
You said it. So let's rewind to Atlanta in the late 1800s. Picture this. A pharmacist named, get this, Dr. John Pemberton, whips up a sweet syrup meant to cure headaches.
You can't make this stuff up. Goes to show, right?
Right.
Innovation often comes from unexpected places.
Absolutely. And get this, the iconic Coca-Cola script, the one we all know, wasn't even Pemberton's idea.
Oh, really?
Nope, it was his bookkeeper, a guy named Frank Robinson. Thought it looked snazzy in advertising. Little did he know.
That's incredible. Talk about a lasting legacy. Proves that good design is timeless, I guess.
Totally. So Pemberton, he ends up selling the business to Asa Griggs Candler. Candler, now, he was a marketing genius.
Yep.
By 1895, just a few years later, Coca-Cola is in every single U.S. state. How did he do it?
Well, for starters, he had a vision. He saw the potential for Coca-Cola to be more than just a local drink, but his real masterstroke. He fixed the price.
Did what?
Fixed the price for 70 years, kept it affordable, a treat anyone could enjoy.
Wow, 70 years at the same price. That's unheard of.
It was a bold move, but it worked. Created brand loyalty, made it a household staple.
Smart. But going global, that's a whole different ballgame, right? How'd they pull that off?
First international shipment, Cuba, 1899. But World War II, that's really when things took off.
The war. How
Yeah.
so?
Well, the president of Coca-Cola at the time, Robert Woodruff, he pledged to get Coca-Cola to every single American service member stationed around the world.
Talk about a taste of home,
Yeah.
even on the front lines.
Exactly. It's a brilliant marketing move, really, and it solidified their global presence.
Genius. But okay, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, or rather the secret formula locked in a vault somewhere in Georgia.
Yes, the mystery recipe.
Only two people know it at any given time. They can't even travel together. What's the story there?
Part of it's about building that brand mystique, right? Keeping people guessing. But the formula, it has actually changed over the years.
Oh, I didn't know that. So what was in the original recipe?
The original Coca-Cola, it actually used extracts from coca leaves and cola nuts, hence the name.
Wait, hold on. Coca leaves. Are we talking cocaine?
Don't act so surprised. In the late 19th century, it wasn't unusual at all. Perfectly legal back then, even used medicinally. But as cocaine's dangers became more well-known.
Yeah, not exactly the best PR move nowadays.
You think? By 1929, they'd completely removed it from the formula.
Probably for the best. Though speaking of questionable decisions, can we talk about New Coke? That was a whole thing back in the 80s.
Oh, man. New Coke. A classic case study in what not to do.
They really thought a sweeter formula would win over Pepsi drinkers.
That was the idea, anyway. But it backfired spectacularly. The public outcry was something else.
I bet. They brought the original back pretty quickly, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. Only took them 79 days to admit defeat. Rebranded it Coca-Cola Classic, though. Smart move.
Definitely learned that lesson the hard way. But what about the shift from cane sugar to high fructose corn syrup? Was that another marketing misstep?
Not quite. That one's more about economics. See, the U.S. corn industry really took off in the 70s. Subsidies, you name it, made corn syrup dirt cheap.
So they switched to save a buck.
Basically. Some people even say the Mexican Coca-Cola, the kind still made with cane sugar, is the closest to that original formula.
Interesting. Made you wonder. But look, we all know it's not just about the one drink anymore. They've gone way beyond that.
Oh, absolutely. They're a whole beverage empire these days. Over 500 brands. Juices, teas, sports drinks, bottled water. You name it, they've probably got it.
Seriously.
Oh, yeah. Remember Minute Maid? Coca-Cola bought them up way back in 1960.
Wow. See, this is what I mean. This is fascinating stuff.
Right. And just recently, they acquired Costa Coffee. They're going head-to-head with Starbucks on a global scale.
That's a power move if I've ever heard one.
It's all about strategic acquisitions. They see a gap in their market or product line, they go after it.
Smart. They're playing chess, not checkers. Speaking of strategy, their distribution model is kind of brilliant. Instead of owning every bottling plant, they just sell the syrup concentrate.
Ah, yes, the Coca-Cola system. It's a franchise model, really. Been around since 1889.
1889. That's almost as old as Coke itself.
Pretty much. This system, it's been the key to their global domination. Allows for massive scale without the headaches of managing every single facility.
Talk about thinking outside the bottle. Pun intended.
Ah, well played.
But, it's not just about the business model. They're masters of collaboration, too. I mean, they've got to deal with the International Cricket Council through 2031 and a major partnership with Microsoft.
It's all strategic, you see. The Cricket Council deal. That's about tapping into local markets. Cricket is huge GE in many parts of the world.
Makes sense. But Microsoft, what's that about?
That partnership is focused on internal collaboration, using technology to drive efficiency on a global scale. It's pretty cutting edge, actually.
From cricket to cutting-edge tech. Is there anything they don't do?
Well, that's debatable. But one thing's for sure, they know how to market.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Coca-Cola's marketing campaigns are legendary. They've got those catchy jingles, the heartwarming images.
It's all about emotion. They're not selling a drink, they're selling a feeling. Happiness, connection, sharing, nostalgia. They tap into those universal desires.
It's true, like those iconic images. Santa Claus with a Coke, the polar bears, those people singing on the hilltop. It sticks with you.
It's brilliant, really. They understood the power of visual imagery early on, and they've consistently reinforced it over the decades.
And they're not afraid to evolve with the times. Remember that Share a Coke campaign? They printed people's names on the bottle.
So clever. It wasn't just a marketing campaign. It was a cultural phenomenon. And perfectly timed, too, right when social media was exploding.
It was genius.
Yeah.
So simple, yet so effective. Speaking of effective, they put their money where their marketing is. I read somewhere that they spend something like $5 billion with AB dollars a year on advertising.
It takes a lot to stay relevant in today's market, and they're constantly adapting using data to understand their customers and tailor their campaigns. They don't mess around.
They're definitely not messing around. But it hasn't all been sunshine and rainbows, right? I mean, they've had their fair share of controversies over the years.
That's the price of success, I suppose, or in Coca-Cola's case, the price of global domination. Oh, definitely. We're talking health concerns, environmental impact, even some questions about their labor practices. A company that big, it's bound to attract some scrutiny.
Makes sense. So let's unpack some of that. First up, the health aspect, all that sugar. I act like a health food, is it?
Yeah.
And then there's the whole issue of marketing to kids. How are they addressing those criticisms?
Well, they're trying to diversify, offering lower calorie options, drinks with less sugar, even some sugar-free varieties, and they're being more careful about advertising to children, trying to promote healthier choices.
So a bit of a balancing act, keeping the classic Coke fans happy,
Right.
but also appealing to the health-conscious crowd.
Exactly. It's a tough line to walk.
No kidding. Speaking of tough lines, let's talk about their environmental impact. Plastic waste, water usage. Those are some serious accusations.
Yeah, there's no getting around it. They've been called out, and rightfully so, for being the world's largest plastic polluter. Environmental groups are really putting on the pressure.
And it's not just the plastic. I've read reports about their water usage, how it's impacting local communities.
It's a real issue. There have been some high-profile cases, particularly in India. Coca-Cola's bottling plants were accused of depleting local water sources, actually causing shortages for entire communities.
That's awful. Talk about a PR nightmare.
It's a stark reminder, though, that a global company, even one as big as Coca-Cola, can have a very real, very local impact.
Absolutely. So how are they responding to all this? Are they actually doing anything to address these environmental concerns?
They have rolled out some initiatives. Their big one is called World Without Waste. Ambitious goal. 100% recyclable packaging by 2025.
It's only a couple years away. Think they'll pull it off.
Only time will tell.
Yeah.
But there's more. They also want to collect and recycle a bottle or can for every one they sell by 2030. And they're working to cut down on new plastic use, like significantly reduce it in the next few years.
Okay, so they're trying to close the loop on their packaging. That's a good start. What about the water usage? Anything happening on that front?
They're tackling that too. Their goal is regenerative water use in a bunch of their facilities by 2030. Basically, putting back the water they use. Plus, they're working on improving the health of important watersheds around the world.
Those are some pretty lofty goals. Hopefully they can actually deliver on them.
We'll see. Actions speak louder than words, right?
Always. But hey, let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about their history, their controversies, but at the end of the day, they're still here. Thriving, even. What's the secret sauce? Why is Coca-Cola so darn successful?
Well, there's no single answer. It's a perfect storm of factors, really. But their marketing, it's undeniably brilliant. They understand how to connect with people on an emotional level. They're not just selling a drink. They're selling happiness, connection, a little bit of nostalgia. Those feelings we all crave.
It's true. They've really nailed that whole feel-good vibe.
And they've done it consistently for decades. They were onto something with their visual imagery early on. Remember those iconic images we talked about? And they've just kept building on it. Plus, they know how to adapt. As society changes, as consumer tastes evolve, Coca-Cola evolves right along with them.
Yeah, like that Share a Coke campaign. Perfectly timed for the social media age. They were way ahead of the curve on that one.
Absolutely. They tapped into personalization, shareability, all those things that make for a viral marketing moment. But don't underestimate the power of their Coca-Cola system, that franchise distribution network. It's the backbone of their global reach.
It's genius, really. They've managed to build this massive, complex global empire, all while making it look effortless.
Exactly. And they haven't been afraid to diversify. They acquired Minute Maid, remember? Now they've got Costa Coffee. Heck, they're even dabbling in kombucha now.
Kombucha. See, this is why I love doing these deep dives. You just never know what you're going to learn.
Right. It's fascinating. You think you know a company and then, bam, they hit you with something completely unexpected.
Totally. Speaking of unexpected, you were looking at those Quora threads earlier. Anything particularly interesting come up?
Oh, there's always something. You know those ridges on the old glass Coca-Cola bottles?
Yeah.
Turns out those were designed so you could identify the bottle by touch, even in the dark.
No way, really.
Yep. It just goes to show they were thinking about the whole sensory experience. Even back then, it wasn't just about taste. It was about feel, recognition, creating that connection with the consumer on multiple levels.
That's incredible. Talk about attention to detail.
Right. They were thinking ahead, even back then. But that's Coca-Cola for you. Always one step ahead.
It's true. So as we've been on this journey, exploring the ins and outs of Coca-Cola from its humble beginnings to its global empire, what stands out to you as the most crucial ingredient in their recipe for success? What's the one thing they've consistently done right?
Honestly, I think it's their knack for tapping into what people really want. That desire for connection, for a little happiness in a bottle, even a touch of nostalgia. They understand those basic human desires, and they've built an empire around them.
It's true. They haven't just built a brand, they've built a feeling.
Yeah.
And that feeling, it's powerful.
Incredibly powerful. It's allowed them to weather some pretty serious storms. I mean, we're talking formula changes, PR disasters, global controversies. They've survived it all.
They're like the Time Lord of the beverage industry. But in all seriousness, they've shown resilience. A willingness to adapt. Like, remember New Coke. They know when to admit defeat and course correct.
Exactly. They're not afraid to evolve. But the question now is, can they evolve fast enough? Can they keep up with this growing demand for sustainability, for corporate responsibility? The stakes are higher than ever.
It all comes back to those ambitious sustainability goals they've set for themselves. But as we've discussed, setting goals and actually achieving them are two very different things.
Couldn't agree more. They're making promises about recyclable packaging, water conservation, ethical sourcing. The next decade, that's going to be crucial for Coca-Cola. They need to prove they're serious about this, that they're actually committed to lessening their environmental impact.
And it's not just about the environment, right? They're facing challenges on multiple fronts. There's that whole shift in consumer attitudes towards sugar, the demand for healthier options.
Absolutely. People are more health conscious than ever. They're doing their research, reading labels. They want to know what they're putting into their bodies.
And Coca-Cola is trying to adapt, right? They've got their diet options, their sugar-free alternatives. They're even dabbling in things like kombucha now.
They are. But are they doing enough? Are they truly embracing this shift towards healthier beverages? Or is it just a token effort, a way to appease the critics without fundamentally changing their ways?
It's a valid question. Can a company built on sugary drinks really reinvent itself as a champion of health? Only time will tell, I suppose.
Time and consumer demand. Because at the end of the day, it's the consumer who holds the power. They'll decide whether Coca-Cola's efforts are enough, whether the company can successfully navigate this new landscape.
So much to think about. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. The history, the marketing genius, the controversies, those ambitious sustainability goals. It's clear that Coca-Cola is at a crossroads.
Definitely a pivotal moment for them. Will they rise to the challenge and become a force for positive change in the world? Or will they cling to their old ways and risk being left behind?
It's a question that goes beyond Coca-Cola, really. It's a question that every global corporation is grappling with right now. How to balance profit with purpose. How to be successful in business while also being a responsible citizen of the world.
Big questions, for sure. But important ones, because the decisions these companies make, they impact all of us.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Coca-Cola, we leave you with this.
The next time you grab an ice